Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 5 of MasterBox's Edge of the Universe figures. Scale is 1 to 24. And this part 5, you can see I've got the other box art graphic up, and this is for a beholder. So as you can see, this is what is called a D&D miniature, or Dungeons and Dragons miniature. So it comes already primed and it just needs painting, and this is what I'm going to do in this video. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. So it's time to start painting, and as I said in the intro, these miniatures come pre-primed, so you don't have to worry about putting any primer on. You can put the paint straight to it, as you can see here. Now I'm using an old brush to do this because of the nature and the shape of the miniature. You can quickly ruin a brush by painting it. Obviously, an airbrush you wouldn't have this issue, but because I don't airbrush, I only use a hairy stick. You know, I always keep my old brushes for this sort of thing. So the paint I'm using is Revel Aquacolor 56 Blue. Now, the thing with beholders is they come in many different shapes and different colours and sizes. So if you're deciding to do something like this, don't be too hung up about what colour your beholder should be. It can be brown, red, black, whatever you want it to be. It really doesn't matter. So like everything with these figures, your best bet is to paint the block colours in first. And this is what I'm doing here. Inside the mouth, I'm using Revel Aquacolor 62 Moss Green, or Mossy Green. It's basically a dark green colour. Now you can paint it black inside it as well, but I like a little bit of green inside it. And also, don't worry about being too neat at this stage either. It's inside the mouth. You're not going to see too much of it. If you go onto the teeth or the tongue, don't worry so much about that either, because you will be painting over those parts anyway. Then once the green's dry, it's time to paint in the tongue. Now I'm using a fine small brush here. There's not a lot of room to paint inside it, but it is doable. And I'm using Revel Aquacolor 36 Carmine Red. Oh, this is a deep dark red colour, which is perfect for a tongue. The tongue is well defined, and the borders in between the gum and the tongue are quite easy to follow. So you shouldn't have any difficulty actually painting it. It looks complicated, but it really isn't. It's just block colours. Then it's on to the teeth. Now you can decide how dirty or how bright you want the teeth, but it's going to need a block colour, so it's a Revel Aquacolor 05 White for this. Now you can paint it ivory or something like that. I was actually tempted to leave the teeth in the bright white colour. I think it probably looked more sinister actually thinking about it, just the bright white colour, instead of having them stained and looking disgusting. But you know, as a personal choice, but I kind of like that look. I don't keep it this way, I should add, but looking back on it, maybe you should have kept it just the plain white. Then it's onto the eye. So there's several eyes on the beholder. You have the main eye and all the individual eyes are on the eye stalk. I'm painting these in the same colour, the white colour. Now, you can actually have these eyes all different colours, and if you're not familiar with a creature like the beholder in a fantasy setting, each eye can do a different thing, from shooting fire to frost and things like that. It's quite a sinister creature, so you can paint the eyeballs to reflect that. Or of course, you can just do what I'm doing, is painting them all white. Each eye is moulded quite well. There is an iris inside each little eye as well, which will be getting painted. But as I said, it's just the block colour going in. But don't feel free to experiment with these things. The beauty about these acrylic paints is you can paint over them quite easily. So I'm using Revel Aquacolor 07 Black Gloss here, and this is for the pupil that I'm painting in. I'm doing it on the main eye first, and it's just one slit right up to the top, and all the little eyes have the same sort of thing, but obviously a lot smaller. So once the pupil's done, it's time to paint the iris, This again, it's really nicely defined, so it's quite easy to paint. And I'm using Humbrol 38 Lime for this. I wanted a nice light green colour to make the eye stand out. And of course it's the same for the little eyes as well. I haven't painted in the pupil on the little eyes yet. Because they're so small, it's better to paint the iris in first before going on to the pupil, which is only a tiny little black stripe. So now all the block colours are done, it's time to start doing the detailing. And what I'm doing here is I'm painting some bloodshot eyes. So I've got a cocktail stick and I've filed it down into a fine point. And I'm just dipping it in the paint and drawing lines around the eye to simulate bloodshot. And I'm using Revlon Colour 36 Carmine Red once more for this. I did think about going for a brighter red, but then I decided I'll just keep the red that I used for the tongue. This is a very simple process to do with the cocktail stick, and it's quite effective as well. And you can use this technique on any model that you've got a really fine line, your cocktail stick filed down to a fine point. Is ideal for the job. Just don't press down too hard because you may scratch the underlying paint, of course. And it's the same for the smaller eyes. Having less bloodshot marks here, just one or two little markings. And once it's dry enough, it was time to put in the pupils for the little eyes, using the same technique with the cocktail stick, but just using the black. And that is it basically painted. There's a little bit more bits and pieces to do, of course, but that's all the block colours in and the bit of detailing done. So now it's time to weather things up. So here I'm using Revlon Colour 86 Olive Brown, and the old technique of putting the pigment on the brush, taking the majority of the excess off and dry brushing it. I'm just putting this over the teeth, rubbing away any excess that I may have put on with my finger. Helps blend it in as well, and just taking that white and making them more sinister, a little bit grubby. This is a gradual process to do this. I'm using various different sizes of brushes as well to get into smaller parts. And I'm just building up the layers until I'm happy with it. It's important not to do it all in one go because you can make a mess of it, of course. So just do tiny little bits at a time. Even if you don't think you can see the pigment initially, just build up those layers until you're happy with it. It's better to have a little amount than too much in one go. And once I'm happy with it, it's time to varnish. And for this, I'm using the simple Pledge Clear varnish or polish to do this. I'm putting it on lovely all over the actual figure itself. This is important because of the next stage. So I want to make sure that every part of this figure is covered in varnish. I'm also putting quite a lot of varnish on as well. I don't want it to be too thin in places, so I'm making sure there's a good coat everywhere on the figure, as you can see there. Now this will it'll take a little bit longer time to dry, but that's okay. Just bear that in mind if you're doing this. Drying time will increase quite considerably if you're putting a lot of varnish on. So I've let it dry for some time, and now it's time to put in the wash. So I'm using Humbrol's dark grey wash for this. Now on the camera it looks black, but it's actually dark grey. I've decanted it into another bottle because the cap in that bottle went a bit weird. So the wash is just going to be placed all over, apart from the eyes. I don't want any wash on that. And this is will end part 5. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you go and check out the channel for my other builds. If you subscribe to the channel, please do so. Make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my other builds as well, of course. Hit the like button. Don't be afraid to leave a comment. And of course, you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.